Hello, my name is Brandon, and I think new forms of media play a big role on how we perceive information nowadays. I think a lot of people, especially our age, being college students, we get a lot of our information through TikTok and Instagram and different forms of social media. I think back then a lot of it was through forms of like reading, forms of news was through like newspapers, and that was the main way people got their information. But new forms of media like social media, for example, Instagram, TikTok, X, like it's way more accessible to receive information. Like it's just on like the literal touch of your fingertips on your phone. So I think this plays a big impact on how a lot of people perceive the media nowadays. I think that with this being so accessible that it makes I guess the form of misinformation. I think that a lot of information could just come out and it could just be false, and people who don't really know how to back up their claims or back up what they're reading essentially could fall into just a lie and base their beliefs off of a lie. So I think that also kind of plays into my next and with media forms being so accessible nowadays, I think that it often leads to misinformation being spread. I think that people that can't really back up their sources or just would honestly believe anything that they see online, they're prone to just believing misinformation. I think that with this, it becomes a larger issue in society where people are just kind of basing maybe some of their beliefs or even like political beliefs, for example, off misinformation. And I think that could be detrimental to our society. I've also found that like even new media having like video options like TikTok being recorded videos obviously and there being audio, it helps add emotion and it could definitely make something more persuasive. And it also makes it kind of personable, like the person could relate because they're seeing another person talk to them, they're seeing the person's emotions, their eyes, their face, how they feel. With my topic in particular, the study of how music impacts a person's ability to complete tasks and like doing homework and stuff like that. I think streaming services like Apple Music and Spotify make it really accessible to find new music, like, and it kind of keeps you hooked essentially. And they would even like they even go as far as making like playlists as to like, and they're essentially like catered in what you like. They like take your listening habits, they make playlists off of that, and they even make them for your different moods that you could be having. So if you're feeling sad, they make playlists for that. If you're feeling happy, they make playlists for that. And I think overall, just like the way companies kind of have this like hold over us, where they kind of can just do what they want essentially, and again, it does benefit us, but it could lead us into building some bad habits. I also think that new forms of media like TikTok and Instagram also make it way more accessible for people to find out music as well. Because a lot of times these different artists will have Instagram pages or TikTok pages and they'll promote their music and the things that they're putting out. And I also think that through TikTok, a lot of the times artists can promote their music and sometimes it does become popular and it does become trending. And that does also kind of push their music out to further people and to kind of, it also kind of builds their platform. I think that different media forms like this, it's, I guess it's okay in the sense that people can build on what they have, you know, they can get a bigger outreach, etc. But I do also think that the threat of like misinformation being spread is just like a bigger threat and it holds way more, I guess, weight in society. Like, I would rather listen to music, or I guess not listen to music, than have misinformation being spread on my phone. And I think that also kind of leads into a bigger topic that people should be talking about is learning how to deal with misinformation. I know a lot of the times that like me growing up personally, I was always taught in like history classes, for example, during high school, that this is how you kind of can back up a source. This is you know, how you can refute a source and make sure that it's accurate. But a lot of the times, like the older generations don't really know that. And I think with that, not only misinformation is a problem, but they could also get scammed. So I think it's just a bigger issue overall. And I know a lot of the times, like even my mom herself, she's been prone to these scams. So I think that that kind of also is a bigger picture that people need to be talking about, but that's a side note. But I do also think that media forms promote podcasts a lot too, which is really easy to listen to as like background noise. And I think that also plays a bigger role in my whole research statement, which is the way like music impacts. But I also do feel like background music does kind of have an impact on your ability to complete tasks. I think that like a podcast being so accessible and obviously more pushed out now through new media forms that a lot of the times it is kind of just easy to just throw in a podcast and do an assignment. But I do find myself even getting distracted from this and kind of just focusing on that rather than actually completing my task. So I think there's a lot of pros and cons, and yeah, you should definitely weigh out the benefits.